cannot be simplicity. So our goal is to make every procedure to be simplified, and so we can treat not only the specialist, but also the general practitioner can do breast implant very simply, and finally the implant treatment fee became to be very cheap, and that can be contributed to be used very widely with a good quality of the prosthetic of implant treatment. This is one of the hands-on surgery in the upper entrails. As you see, and we had made a crown guide and very simple surgery. So I have some question about the implant is easier or difficult. When I started the implant over 30 years ago, it was very difficult. But I was very well trained periodontist, so I overcome the problems. But nowadays it became to be much more popular of the young dentists. So that can be almost easier. And also sometimes there are too much complications, and the implant can be failed. Not only that, and sometimes aesthetic complications, prosthetic complications, and during the maintenance bone loss. And finally, the implant can, so with the simplicity of the first step we can do, reduce the complication, and finally implant can be chosen. Yes, and before, only some limited specialists can do well, but nowadays, and the general practitioner, not so much experienced, but they can do so well. Also, even in the prosthetics works, and before it was too much difficult, but nowadays it's to be simplified, even in a very extremely difficult dangerous cases. My concepts about that is related about the treatment framing and the plan management concepts and the dwelling and bone graft even in sinus and the distal concept we do modulus. Of course, before we had made models, but nowadays 100% is modulus approaches even in dangerous cases. And AI occlusal models and AI occlusal guide and CT check part is very important, especially Oronex. Oronex is a prosthetic work is relatively very difficult, especially the finals with the zirconia. With the temporaries we can do adjust, but zirconia occlusions must be very delicate. So especially Oronex, we sometimes be making a wax check bite, but during with temporaries occlusion was very good, but during the check bite there will be some errors. So sometimes you must do remounting and occlusal adjustment in the articulators. But that is not the simplest way. There is too much complexes, so we must to be simplified with the CT check bite. This is one of the cases we have treated Oronex, and at the time we had pressed 6 implants, and 4 implant in the lower, and the implant system was as a bright implant system, and this system and to be certified in the Vietnamese FDA approval in this year, end of the years maybe. And in lower 4 implant. Of course, we can press the bone level implant systems, but compared to the bone level implant, tissue level implant much more stronger, even in narrow diameters. So with the tissue level implant, we can do treatment very well in dangerous cases, even in bruxism patient. Of course, and we did Oronex and also zirconia occlusion. Well, from the temporal crown, and the occlusion relatively very good. And so little bit occlusal adjustment after final process, post-operative maintenance. We do one weeks occlusal adjustment 2 times, and secondly 2 weeks. After that, 2 weeks, occlusal adjustment 2 times. But at the times of the first one, most of the occlusion became very stabilized. And from the temporary to finals, occlusion is fit very well. And so in the next, we will step by step introduce about them. So sometimes the process is from the single molar, not the single molar, is to the first molar. And then we usually and 6 in the offers, but sometimes with a narrow diameter. In narrow ridges, in the anteriors is diameter 3.0. This is the diameter is 4.0. And 4 in front to this first molars. Because the lower is treated, so we made 1 cantilevers. Of course, if you press a little bit more, it's better, but sometimes with a narrow diameter implant, and the minimum numbers can be successful in the offers. How to be that possible? Because the tissue level implant is stronger. And this is some graph of the strength. And this is fracture strength. And so over the 400 Newton centimeters can be used for the single molars. This is the red line, right? Is a tissue level implant. Diameter 3.5 can use for the molars. And this is bright, is a bone level implant. Diameter 4.5 used for the single molars, as you see. And the bud tissue levels. And the implant is 3.5 can be used. So in a single molars and the 3.5 implant with the processes can be successfully used very well. So when you think about the tissue level in this part, and the screw is in the ultimate level portions. So the inner screw portion is not the bone areas. So compared to the bone level implant, this tissue level implant much more stronger without hole or drilling screw any in the bone level areas. And 20 degrees stability is very stable compared to the other connections, external connections, external connections. Some maybe I guess that you are not familiar with external hex connections, but this beveled hex connections, stable connections. So when you do screw tighten, and there is almost no screw loosening. So 20 degree tape for the connections, and this is very important for the stability, and also thread design is a little bit ovoid. And because the bones, many cases bone contour like this. So in a thin bone, we try to reduce the thread exposures. And already Professor Bjorn has mentioned, and body diameter from the 2.0 to 5.0. And the length is the 7.0 to 15th. Very diverse of the diameter and the length of the fixtures. And also, as you much more detailing, the diameter from starting to 2.0 and to the 5.0, but one flapons, diameter 3.81 flapons. So that means the prosthetic work is very simple. And as you see at this implant also so that and can be successfully very well with the 4 implant in the upper part. And sometimes with the partial dentures, and upper is complete dentures, in the lower removable partial dentures, and this is due to tuning upper bone will be reduced. So that means it's very difficult to press the implant in the upper part. So we had to press the 5 implant in the upper part with the bone sinus augmentation and the ridge augmentations. And also we had pressed the narrow diameter is a 3.0 implant in the lower anterior, and the upper is bone levels for the bone grafting, and one tissue level implant on this side. So at the time of the 4 months evaluations, and bone was too much thin, so we cannot press. Just one side is possible, so we pressed the 3.0 implant on this part. And over the 1 years, and the bone is due to things, and the bone was a little bit reserved, but very stabilized of the bone level, and the other side was good. And also the lower processes bone level very well maintenance. This is a complete denture situations, as you already knows after loading with the complete dentures. And the ideal mobility is horizontal and vertical resolved. So it looks fine, but in the anterior side, the bone would be very thin. Very thin. Sometimes very difficult to press the normal diameter implant. It's impossible. Sometimes, of course, we can do augmentation. Sometimes you can do it, but many cases of the GBR is unpredictability. So if you press the implant in the remaining bones, and if we can finish the processes very well, and with some augmentation technique, and in the upper and lower, but very simple augmentation concepts with some very collagen, genocollagen or collagen graft with that, and we had finished the processes very simply. This is another case. Is a patient is a crest through Gibson 1. Is a malocclusion patient. So the patient also used the complete denture in the upper and the lower fixed processes, and that means upper part bone quality is not so good. So we finally, after the GBR, and we pressed the additional implant in the upper and the lower diameter 2.5 implant, and the diameter 3.0, very narrow diameter in a very narrow bridge areas. And we, especially in the lower anteriors, if you press the recommended diameter less than 3 millimeters zero, implant is required. Of course, sometimes bone is good, so we press the regular diameter. One example is 3.5 or diameter 4.5 implant can be pressed. But during the maintenance, in many cases, labial bone is reserved. So in the lower anterior possible, we recommend less than 3 millimeters. So in these cases, in the lower anterior, too much thin. So in a limited spaces, we had pressed the 2 implant. Of course, we can make a 4 implant or make a 3 crown. And the next is about the treatment framing with a narrow diameter implant and the narrow but strong implant, and the concept of the treatment framing concept can be changed. Next about the flat management concepts. And of course, the healing procedures of the 3 molar areas. This is PM1, this is PM2, and the abstraction and the healing. And we need to check the bone soundings. Bone was relatively good, and also buccolingual bone width was very good. So we have drilling, and the press the parallel pin positioning, and finally 2 implant. 3.5, and the length is 7 millimeter 2 implant was placed. And in the October, we had pressed the 2 implant, and this is the healing about one. And also can be used for the scan, because there is a flat surfaces, also can be used very well. Through the scanning, we had made a temporary crown, and with the temporary crown, and so little bit occlusal adjustment, not so much occlusal forces transmitted to the bone. After that, after the maturations of the bones and others opposite, also settlement of the opposite tooth, adjacent tooth, and temporal mandibular joint. We do bilateral impressions. Usually in a small cases, intraoral scanner is good, but sometimes, with the BTS, the occlusion is much more precise compared to the iOS. Nowadays we do, of course, use the two different iOS. One is a prime, another is a shiny 3D. And this is also very good quality, and also nowadays shiny 3D price very good. But in some extensive cases, BTS is much more precise compared to the intraoral scanners. And we have made the zirconia milling, coloring, staining, and grazing, and pressed into the mouth, and finished. And also in cases, the very thin alveolar ridge, so the previous doctors recommended to make a more partial denture, so finally we had pressed a two implant. One is a diameter 2.5, one is 3.0 implant, and the molars is a 4.0 implant. And the pressed a two implant, and the socket preservation is a gynecollagen. And the collagen graft too. And after that, after the bones around the implant maturations, at the time we do making a bonding to the adjacent tooth, and the occlusal force is very well distributed to the natural tooth. So it's with the bonding. And also in the upper posterior part, we try to press the two implant, and on this one is a single molar one implant. So in a single molars, and there is a alveolar exostasis and bone was reserved. So we could just a little bit push the palatal side. So we do little bit palatal side incisions, and the drilling during the try to push the gingiva a little bit laterally, without augmentations, and then press the 4.0 implant. So we tried a little bit of augmentation on this side, only with the flat incision designs. Also in the another side of the posterior, we had pressed the two implants. One is the 6 or 7, and one implant pressed in the septum. So during the instructions, and at first we tried the instruction, after that, and to see the septal condition, we recommended the immediate implant or delayed implant. The bone condition was good, so we tried to do in the septum areas. Of course, before for them, we do ridge spreading and the bone grafting together. But nowadays, and the condition was good, so 4.0 implant very well pressed. Of course, we can also press the 3.5 diameter implant is good enough. And also bone grafting, and the collagen graft, and stabilization. Also in the second molar areas, and we can see some defect on the, so if you do little augmentation, it will be fine. So we tried to make a little bit lingualized incision, and push the gingiva to the labia side. So after the healing abutment, this plaque was very well stabilized, so there is no need for the sutures. So after healing, 2 weeks healing, this is a healing abutment, and this is a distal abutment. Distal abutment can be used for the healing abutment, scanning abutment, and also can be used for final abutment. After we had finished the temporaries, and then during the temporarizations, we are trying to occlusal treatment, but also lower entries. And with the provisional temporary crowns, and the patient functions so well, and so we try to occlusal treatment nowadays. And also we try to press the implant in the premolar area and on this side molar areas. There is some optical lesions. We try to do end of the treatment and the fitted with the NTA. NTA is calcium silicate oxide. So with the water, with the water, and then at the time calcium oxide and the silicate oxide mineralization. So some remnant can finally destroy the alkalism, and this during the alkali reaction of the pH would be around 11. So most of the bacteria was decreased, eliminated, and the mineralization processes. So with the MTA, as you already know, endodontic result is very good. So we press the 3.0 and the 3.5 implant. So perilingual incisions, semilunar incisions sometimes, and the push the gingiva to the labia side. Also in this side, because gingiva junction like these three directions, so we try to make a little bit lingualized incision, push the gingiva to the labia side. And then after the temporary crown, and on this side we can make a little bit change the mucogingival junction area to the labia side. We have a good keratinized gingiva, and the lower and the upper. We made a zirconia final crown, still lower temporary crown for the checking of the occlusion and stability of the temporal mandibular joint and oscillatories. So with the narrow diameter implant, we can change the flap management because the less than 3.5 keratinized gingiva can be maintained, but over the 4.5 during the drilling, keratinized gingiva can be lost. So we press the less than 3.5 millimeters, we can maintain the keratinized gingiva on the buccal side, and through the repositioning technique, we can make much more keratinized tissues. That's about the changing the drilling concepts with the narrow diameter implant. If we press the 3.0, the drilling process is very simple. And even in 5, it's not so much. Sometimes you can skip because this is a lateral blade, it's very fastly gliding out. And the main differences between the previous one is there is a cortical bone. And before the surgery, we check the thickness and the measuring the cancellous portion, not grinding out the radial cortical bone. Before when you do drilling, we tried to follow the drilling, follow the diameter of the fixtures. But even in upper and the lower, we can press the implant into the cancellous portion, not grinding out the cortical bone. This is one of some videos in the upper anterior extremely reserved cases. After extraction, we have waitings, but bone is very narrow. Clinically looks as relatively good, but after CT images, bone is very shallower or quite lingually. So this is a crown guide concept. This crown guide can be for the drilling, also can be used for the temporal crown with the stabilization with the tooth. At first, the drilling, pilot drilling 1 or 2, and making a plaque design to making a much more keratinized gingiva on the labia side. And a little bit palatalized like incision, and after the clear cut, flap retraction, and during the flap retraction, we can see that alveolar ridge is too much thin. So usually it is very difficult to press the implant. So some of the extraction site bone was not healed very well. So we do try to do re-drilling with a crown guide, but extraction site is very difficult to drill approaches. So into the papilla, we press the parallel pinch to check the positioning and the parallelism, and in a very narrow alveolar which we try to press the one implant, and the diameter is 2.5. Sometimes also we can press 2.0 implant. 2.5 implant. Over the 3.0, there will be exposure of the implant. At the time we do exact GBR processes, but without exposure of the thread, we can do GBRs very simply with the concept of contour augmentations. And after the 2.5, and we try to drilling in the canine, each canine side or the palatal position. And in the central incisor area, direction was not so much ideal. So at the time, we can very easily change the directions because this implant pressed only into cancerous area, not cortical area. So sometimes we are, and the end of the implant is very sharp, so we can press redirection of the implantations on the central incisor area. Also, canine area, we had pressed the 2 implant. And there, with the narrow diameter, there is a very small exposure of the thread. If you press the 4.0 is a regular diameter implant, there will be much more exposure. We must do a bone level implant with much more augmentations. And with the diameter 2.5 implant in the 3 implant. And so bone drilling concept also can be changed with a narrow diameter implant. And also even in bone graft and the sinus segmentation concept can be changed in a narrow and short implant. In the lower entry, there is some problem with the bone loss. So after extraction of this one, and we had to try to press the one implant on this side and to save this root rest. So press the implant and some post on the tooth and the original, and after healing, bone was too much thin, so we have tried to press the 3.5 implant and 3.0 implant. Also, this is diameter 3.0 and diameter 2.5. In the later one, we had pressed, but at that time we had tried to press the 2.5 implant. And before the instructions, and the alveolar ridge, and it looks very fine. So after flap retraction, the upper part is good, but lower part is very thin. So we do little bit grinding out with the crown lensing to save these tools. After that, during the drilling, and the press the 2.5 implant, still we can see some exposure of the thread. So we did the bone grafting and the collagen membrane coverages, and with the flap stabilization with the GBR pin. Usually before we have removed the 1 insulator, but for the stability of the flap, maybe 4 weeks would be much more recommended, I think. After that, and the root rest was restored with the processes, and this implant was finished, and during the healing, some abutment were a little bit exposed. But functionally, at the bone level was good, so the patient did this process very well. And also the upper entry of severe bone loss and the root rest. So at first it will be extraction. After the extraction, and we placed the 2.5 implant. And as you see, flap it would be very thin and some horizontal defect, and also there will be some vertical defect. So the patient is over the 70 years old, so we tried to very simplify it with the horizontal augmentations. After extraction, during the healing, we do 3D printing of fracture resin material, and very simply press the button into the mouth. And after healing, when you do retraction, we can see that alveolar ridge is very thin. So it was very difficult to press the regular diameter implant. So we had to press 2.5, 11 meter implant on this side, and also same one in this side. But at this side, bone was not so much dense, so some fracture of this side. But anyway, we do a genocollagen and with the collagen graft too, and very simply contour augmentation on the labial side, and the collagen graft too exposed, and with the suture and finished, and the highest level even 2.5, 11 millimeters was good, and with the scanning for the temporaries, areas, and the DNA injections for the fastest soft tissue healing, soft tissue 2 times faster, and the bone tissue 1.5 fastest healing. And after the 2 weeks healing, we tried to press the fixed temporaries, and so after the scanning, and the making of fixed processes and stabilizes the adjusted tooth. And after the temporalization, final impression, we press the distal abutment, that means the healing, scanning, final abutment. And then after that, temporary intraoral scanner commonly used, but for the finals, and especially the pointy areas, we very commonly use the BTS concept, bilateral Asian scanning concepts. Through that, and with that, and through the stitching process very simply. And also when you don't align the upper anterior tooth or edentulous cases, we can use the face foam, sometimes facial photos, sometimes with the smile design. Sometimes we also do a facial scan. But it is all of those that are arbitrary operatives by the clinicians. But if we do follow the occlusal frame to follow the orbital line, and in the alatrabas line, and the mid-part ANS, and the mid-part line, we can have an ideal occlusal frame. So when you do tooth alignment, compared to the previous one, we can make a very well no occlusal frame, so we make a crown very naturally. So final process is the milling and the grazing pressed into the mouth, and sometimes also screw holes is, if you want, we can change the 15 degree with the angled screwdrivers. There are some gaps, but over the aged 70 years old, the aged person is functionally good. Also, narrow diameter can be used very well in the bone graft side, and the short implant 7 millimeters. Before you are very hesitant to make a guideline of the sinus segmentation. So, but finally 7 millimeters is good enough for the posterior molar. So we are nowadays press the very commonly 7 millimeter lens implant, and the guideline can be changed. In these cases, there is a bone loss, we must extraction, but this was good. So after extraction, and with some soft tissue healing, we had to press the implant with the GBR, and the 7 millimeter lens implant with the lateral approaches. After the healing, was the previous implant was relatively good. So after healing, we make a final processes connected all together. And also this is a bone level implant. Bone level implant can be used for the GBR. Sometimes it's a sinus segmentation with a delayed rolling. especially this beer is 10 degrees. We need to develop, of course, 25 years before we need to develop at 11 degree would be good enough. But during the follows, we can do that. There is a screw loosening and abutment or fixture fractures. So if you make 11 degree deep connections, there is no screw loosening, and we can follow the fractures. But when you do compare with the check, there's a fracture strength is much higher strength. So we can think that, and this is a 10 degrees connection and deep connection is a much more hex or non-hex compared to the others, much higher surface contact, so we can reduce the screw loosening. Also countersink. Also Super and other companies countersink too much, but with the 10 degree deconnections, the countersink is very low, around the 10 micrometers sink down. So when you do make extensive cases, we have sometimes some problem with the sink down of the internal connections, but with the 10 degrees we can reduce the sink down of the processes. Yeah, of course this is already Professor Bian have mentioned, but the length is from the 7 to 11, diameter is 3.5 to 6 millimeters. And the length is from the 5 millimeters to the 15 millimeters. And the diameter is very similar with others. And after instructions, and this is the second bolus, and the first molar and the second bolus. And during the, this is a premolar, PM2, and the first molar, and the second molar area. So we do a little bit lingualize the incisions and press the implant. And the upper part is, there is not so much enough bone on this side with a membrane and to cover this after finishing of the surgery with the 2 implant. The condition was not so good, so the hole was not ideal, and we had to press the 2 implant in the upper part. So with the Delosian implant is bone grafting and sinus segmentation is very simplified. And next to about the distal concept with the modulus. Some years later, also we had made some models, around 10 or 20% models. But nowadays, even in interest, we do not make any models. Modulus process is very simplified and also without models. And there is no need for the check the operation, everything. Only as designing in the computer is good enough. In a single cases, we had, this is around 10 years before, concepts of ours. Due to some exposure we do, instruction of this one. And we press the low diameter implant. Diameter is 3.0. Is an aniline at the times. And bone grafting, and sometimes membrane technique and connective tissue grafted together and the suture and were finished. Ivory was became to be well. During the second stage surgery, we tried to make a much more keratinated tissue on this side with a temporary crown. And for the final processes after taking an impression, we do the trial of the fixed crown. Because we don't know exactly which midline is ideal. So we must, the treatment of the processes, we must check the midline and the occlusal friends. And the colors, and also taking a final impression again. And this is a very conventional way of the model technique after making models. And we need, for the models, we need the impression copying and the replica and the very conventional technique. So in the final processes works, and also we try to make a zirconia and the zirconia copying. Sorry, this one, zirconia making and finally porcelain build-up. This is too much procedure and it is not easier. Of course, that was done mainly by the dental technicians, but however, the technician must do this long, various steps of the procedures is not recommended because the cost became higher, cannot be lowered. And press that and into the mouth and finished. This is a 10-year concept of our clinic. But nowadays, we are trying to change them into another concept. And the final process was that ideal towards, and we tried to make a re-crowning. So we tried to simplify. So we have developed a digital abutment. This can be used for the healing. As already mentioned, the healing scan, final abutment. And this is a very common BTS concept, the healing abutment, digital abutment, BTS concept, model scanning, and designing, and the final processes. Of course, the intraoral scanner can be used for them, and sometimes even in intros. But for the intros, BTS is much more precise compared to the iOS. And this is a bone level distal abutment. This is a tissue level. This is a bone level abutment. So healing abutment can use the scan body, impression copy, sometimes the formant abutment. And this is a titanium base. It's a little bit longer, narrower. And there is a bending hole. Bending hole is a 50 degrees. So, an upper anterior, we can very easily, conveniently change the direction with a 50 degrees. Sometimes a screw hole on the radial side or incisively, we can bend it to the 50 degree. And this is the distal procedure of the tissue level and the bone levels. And especially bone level implant. Also connection with the screw abutment are the same, and there's a distal abutment, titanium base. And if you want the custom update, we can use the titanium blank. And also, this here is a healing abutment. Sometimes we can use that or not. And also bone level implant, distal abutment, base. Sometimes this healing abutment can be used or not, and the screw abutment type blank can be used. So before, our procedure is too much procedures, but in this case, as you see, very simple. Surgery was done, and as you already mentioned, so we tried drilling only to the cancerous portion, not to grind out this cortical portion. No vibration on the benzene labial alveolar ridges. After press of the implant, diameter 3.5 diameter implant, and after the final processes, as you see, surgery and immediate press the distal abutment, and that was done through the temporary procedures, and we had making final impressions or scanning for the final processes, and pressed into the mouse without models. So borderless is this the generation of processes, even not from the second to the elite processes. But for the checking ups, we try, if we started to making a models, there is too much process, not only the procedures, and also many errors. So modelless approaches we do nowadays, even in tumors and vertical increasement cases, and we do 100% these modelless approaches. Next, we do AN occlusal, frame, and CT check right. this patient, we tried to make an implant, but occlusal was not ideal, so little bit tilted. So AI occlusal frame is very important also in the orthodontics. Before the orthodontic treatment, through the AI occlusal frame, we know the tilting, yawning, and deviations. So after implantation, we tried to change the occlusal frame, and with the temporary scanning, and we had at first temporary crown, but still there are some too much tabs. So we tried to little bit occlusal horizontal intrusion of the on this side, and after that, and taking a final impression and making a prosthesis, and there is a very limited stuff. So with the posterior is the temporary crown, you make a jig for the CBCT taking for the occlusions. So each side, or once simultaneously, we can take your BTS concept by the trying, scanning, and when you check due to limit of the tooth support is we can see some deviation. So we do check right again after conventional diagram, and we try to extract the STR from the diagram, and each impression is just stitching together, and we make a virtual model. And the final processing or temporary, everything can be through this virtual model without models, no model, virtual models. So this is a zirconia, is a little bit coloring. So nowadays also we tried to eliminate the coloring or staining procedures, and after the final processes and finished. Also due to intrusion of this part, we make retainers and finished. This is another patient with a little bit occlusions, patient class 3 malocclusal patient, so with a little bit occlusal treatment, functionally became to be better, but some aesthetic problem in the upper anterior. So of course we have used the facial scan. Sometimes face bone, not anymore to use this one. And also with the after the impressions, and when you do a virtual tooth setups, and with the temporary crown, and for the finals, at the time we do interpupillary to follow the interorbital line, and the ANS with the partition line, and from the soft tissue we can do the alatraverse line. So through the stitching procedure we can make an ideal occlusal frame. And also with that, and we do tooth arrangement in the upper anterior tooth, not from the soft tissue, but from the hard tissues. So there is a midline deviations, but we try to follow the midline and making a final processes which are virtual occlusal checkups and the zirconia 3-layer blocks. Before, I have mentioned that we have sometimes coloring stain, but nowadays not anymore, because we have to make a zirconias 3-layer and pressed into the mouth and finished. You can see the same translucent differences. And also for the value differences. And with the only grazing, that is good enough in the upper anterior. And the 3-layer blocks depend on the yttrium. Is the staining, coloring is fine, but staining material cannot penetrate in the 5 yttrium zirconia. So 6 months later, so all the staining will be dismissed. So is a multi-layer or high yttrium zirconia cannot be worked with a staining. Only coloring can be worked. So we developed the multi-layer blocks, and also value difference is 0.3. So the value is different from the cervical to the incisor. And also with the development of the 10 MBP, zirconia can be bonded better with the resistance map. And in this patient with the CT taking, we make an ideal occlusal frame and midline we have finished. In these cases, we can see the very well problem of importance of the CT taking occlusal frame and the BTS taking. And in a model, everything is fine. Not so much difficult is the midline and the tooth alignment directions. But when you do compare with the ideal occlusal frames, we became to know that occlusal frame is a little bit tilted. As you see, it's a little bit tilted, so we cannot make that is not ideal occlusal frame. If you make lower anterior processes, the incisor direction is not ideal. So we do a midline check and ideal occlusal check, and so we tried as much as possible to follow the ideal occlusal frame. And through the virtual setup, we tried to make a final processes. Occlusal little bit tilted. So when you do compare with the ideal occlusal frame, is the right side is a little bit high over the higher occlusal, and the left side is lower to the occlusal frame. So we tried to do anterior side to make ideals. Of course, we must follow the canine area to follow the premolar side. So after a little bit gingival modeling, is usually 0.0 millimeters milling, and then press the 3-layer zirconia milling, and centering, and pressed in the mouth, and finished. So when you do nowadays thinking about the implant, before implant was very difficult and too much complex, and sometimes risky, and the high price. But in the future directions, we need to decide must be practical based on the simplest things important. So today's, and we are very consideration about the future direction after 5 years. We need the presentations. Before 10 years before we need to present. At that time, most of the doctors is a specialist. And aged doctors. But nowadays, fastly changed in the general practitioner and the young age doctors try to say implant. So implant procedure must be to be simplified, even beginners, with the combination of the distal concepts and with the virtual surgery and the virtual modeling, and the procedure became to be very simplified. So finally, implant treatment became to be lower and lower. Thank you very much for the visiting, and thanks for the directors, and also appreciate for the steps to supplement the materials. Thank you very much.
Cảm ơn cái phần báo cáo của giáo sư Xuân Minh rất là hay. Thank you so much for your excellent presentation. It's very useful for us. Yeah. Chắc có lẽ là trưa rồi, thành ra xin phép tặng quà cho quan giáo viên xong chúng ta sẽ nghỉ trưa.